What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to TTB Ravens Media, bringing Ravens content every single day. If you want to see daily Ravens content, make sure to hit the subscribe button down below and to hit the notification bell as well if you want to get notified every single time we upload a brand new video. This is going to be another episode of the Trust the Bank podcast. We have a couple segments that we're going to be talking about. So if you're watching the first segment talking about TYRANN Mathieu, want to hear the second segment, we're talking about my guy, my number one prospect, Kayvon Thibodeaux, because, after he goes out to the Jets, have some dinner with them. He's coming out to Baltimore. EDC is treating him to a nice meal. So we're going to talk about that a little bit. But, the majority of it is going to be talking about TYRANN Mathieu. And if you guys haven't heard, first of all, there was a report that came out of teams that were still interested in TYRANN Mathieu. Teams like the Eagles, teams like the Cowboys, but the Baltimore Ravens were brought up that they have interest still. So that's something to pay attention to. Then our guy, Hoodie Ramey, on the Twitter space, he's got all the followers. He's reaching out to people. He's like, yo, TYRANN Mathieu, how's it going? He says, I'll quote the tweet. He says, my TYRANN Mathieu to Baltimore agenda is coming back to life. You up at Mathieu era? TYRANN Mathieu responds by saying, no thanks. You see what happened last time. Now, I don't know if you guys know what day today is, but possibly this is just an April Fool's thing from TYRANN Mathieu. I didn't really read it as an April Fool's thing from him. LeBron James tweeted something out today and he was like, I'm out for the year, guys. Like that was an April Fool's joke, even though he's not going to be playing much longer this season because they're not making the playing game. But, Joshua, TYRANN Mathieu, on Twitter says that he doesn't, want to come over to the Ravens because, the last time he was talking with the Ravens, we went out and signed Marcus Williams for a ton of money. And a couple years ago, the Ravens were talking to TYRANN Mathieu when he decided to go to the Chiefs. Joshua, do you think... are the Ravens completely out on TYRANN Mathieu?
You can never say never. I know cap is cap. I know who is the past? It was the Darius and Bobby Wagner. We didn't put out aggressive deals, and these guys end up making the move. You never can count us out, honestly. I mean, just to go back to one of the interviews with Jalen Ramsey was actually looking to fall to, I think it was number 6.
Yeah.
So was ready to go to the Ravens. He's like, yo, I know the Ravens about defense. You feel me? I'm gonna do my thing out there. I think Honey Badger definitely understands. If you bring down if you had a Marcus Williams that can be very rangy, you could have him play up in the box, still guard tight ends, and still have that creativity of a young Mike McDonald. Being a defensive coordinator, a lot of things can happen. The only question is, if you bring a TYRANN Mathieu, do Chuck Clark stay on the field, and does he have the green dot, or do you put Chuck Clark at the will and make PQ your Mike?
Yeah, I mean, it really comes down to the Ravens' thoughts on Chuck Clark, on if they want to bring him in, because Marcus Williams, I think it's pretty clear he's the free safety for the Ravens to stay. But at the same time, like TYRANN Mathieu, I feel like the only way the Ravens would bring in TYRANN Mathieu would be as a slot cornerback, really, less of a safety even, because we just don't have the, like, he could obviously sub in packages and play safety. I'm not saying he can't do that, but, he's just not big enough. He's like 5'8", maybe 5'10". He's just not big enough to play that strong safety side. And Marcus Williams isn't really a box safety. He's an over-the-top guy. He's a phenomenal free safety. I'm not saying it's impossible for him to play in the box, but, their skill sets are similar in the fact that they like to play over the top, but TYRANN Mathieu does have a lot of experience, kind of playing in the box, playing, close to the line of scrimmage, as a slot guy, as an underneath zone coverage type player. Mm-hmm. So I feel like we could maybe go after him in that sense, but I feel like it's just disheartening to him because, the Ravens were talking with him, and then they went out and signed a younger safety for a lot more money. then what? Like, so that's something where it's like, oh, okay, that he knows that he wasn't the priority. He felt like he was the priority because the Ravens hadn't done anything, and all the Ravens fans were like, "Come on, when's Tyrann coming? Like, we're waiting on it.
Right,
Come
right.
on, EDC." And he's probably like, "All right, they've been talking with me a lot. I'm kind of a priority." And then all of a sudden, it's like, "Oh, yep, there goes Marcus Williams." And then right after that, they go out and they also sign Morgan Moses. And so it's like, wow, I'm not even the second option. I'm the third option. There's other teams that have been calling my number. I know the Eagles right now are a big team, linked with him. And it's like, okay, they don't really have great safeties over in Philadelphia. So he can actually come in and be that guy. And they also have plenty of draft picks upcoming, so they can draft another guy for him to work with. So, like, it's just something where for him, I don't think Baltimore is the best spot for Tyrann Mathieu. Now, I would like him in Baltimore if we got him on a team friendly type of deal.
Yeah.
But Tyrann Mathieu wants to be the number one free safety on the team. And he's not going to be the number one safety on the Ravens. He's going to be the fourth best secondary player on the roster. I got both the Marcuses and Marlon over him.
Yeah.
And so it's like, yeah, he's number 4. So, and Marlon sometimes plays in the slot, and Tyrann's not playing on the outside. So it's like, okay, what exactly would he be able to do here? Whereas if you went to a team like Philadelphia, he's the guy. Maybe you could say Darius Slay, but him and Slay, two big time players that, they call him Big Play Slay over in Philadelphia. He could go in there and be a playmaker and be that number 1 guy or number 2 guy that's a prominent figure in the secondary. Tyrann Mathieu would be I hate to say it, but he would be a blip on the Ravens roster, especially on defense. Because when you're talking about the Ravens defense, we're going to talk about Marcus, and we're going to talk about Marlon, and then we're going to talk about Marcus again. And then I feel like it's then you go to the pass rush. Like, you don't keep naming secondary. And so you name then Odafe Owe.
Right.
And you name the run stoppers, because that's what the Ravens defense has always been built on, is stopping the run first. So then it's going to be, oh yeah, you know who we have? We got Michael Pierce. Those are the core pieces. Then Tyrann kind of comes in later, and it's like, oh yeah, they have a slot cornerback, nickel package sub in Tyrann Mathieu, at the back end of his contract. I think the best comparison I could make for Tyrann Mathieu is a man by the name of Carmelo Anthony, right? I'm an OKC Thunder fan. Wow. Carmelo Anthony.
Be careful now. Be careful with this Melo comparison.
Carmelo Anthony came to Oklahoma City in 2017, 2018 season. And reporters are like, because OKC already had Westbrook, they had Paul George, and a reporter in the opening press conference was like, yeah, so Carmelo, what are the possibilities of you potentially, coming off the bench as a 6-man role? And Carmelo literally goes, I can't remember if he says Westbrook or Paul George. He's like, yo, PG, these dudes want me to come off the bench. Like, he's not coming off the bench. He's Carmelo Anthony. Like, he's towards the later end of his career, and he was still solid when he was playing at OKC. He's significantly regressed. He's not bad by any means in Los Angeles. I'm not trying to slander Melo. I'm a huge fan of Melo. But Tyrann Mathieu is declining in his career, but he's still really good. He's not ready to take that back seat yet. Patrick Peterson, unfortunately, had to take that back seat last year, in Minnesota. But he was ready for that. Tyrann Mathieu is not ready for that yet. He wants to be that guy. And in Baltimore, he's not going to be that guy. He's going to become the odd man out, the forgotten piece to the puzzle, even though I think he would be a good player in Baltimore. For him, it doesn't make much sense.
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely he's like 5'9". So I mean, like you said, it would have to be like a slot nickel package type of situation. But just to have that level of IQ on the field and in that secondary, it would be an upgrade from what we've been working with and what we've been dealing with. I definitely don't want someone that feel like they still have a lot of juice in the tank to be the odd man out. I mean, look at Cam Newton. Cam Newton has been another guy injured, still battle tested, still like he can get the job done. Unfortunately, he just doesn't have the arm like he used to. But I mean, he's still serviceable by any means, to any team, in my opinion. Of course, TTB family, y'all can go ahead and slander me. Talk about Cam, it's cool. That was my guy. That was one of the OG QBs that made it okay for you to be able to run the ball and pass the ball. So we got to give respect when respect is due. But I mean, I definitely understand that. And I definitely respect that. You can't tell a person that feel like they're in their prime that I ain't got nothing left in me. You just got to find the right situation. So I definitely understand and I definitely respect, where you're coming from, McConnell, because like you said, he would be the odd man out. And I mean, maybe somewhere like New York, like the Jets, maybe.
Yeah.
Or the Eagles. I can't think of other teams unless the Steelers.
I think the Cowboys were a team that was named.
Okay. And I mean, Steelers, they can move Minka over to the strong. But I don't know how that will fare.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it would have to be a role that Tyrann is literally willing to accept, and being ready to coach up Marcus Williams, the young guys like Brandon Stevens, Geno Stone, stuff like that. I know I might get slanted for this. He might have to be the next Anthony Levine. Now, I don't mean be like the co-captain of special teams, but the co-captain in regards of coaching these young guys up so they can be better, so they can, have that longevity. Because injuries do hurt. It does kills any athletes or anybody's career. And we've seen that. I mean, heck, think about Eric Berry. If Eric Berry didn't have I forgot what it was.
I think it was leukemia.
Okay,
I think is what he had. He might not have. I can't remember.
I ain't want to false diagnose him,
Yeah.
But I mean, he battled, and tried to come back, and he just wasn't the same. So, I mean, I get it, I mean, and even take another step further, I understand why people, a little worried about Ronnie Stanley. Ronnie Stanley re-injured the injury. I get it. So y'all might think Ronnie's not going to come back, 100%. I get it that y'all feel the same way about Gus or JK, but those guys are a little younger than Tyrann. Tyrann is, pushing 30, and he's at a position where it's required more work and more skill for him to stay up with these young guys. So, I mean, if we make the move, I will really be interested in how they implement them and put them on the field. But if we don't, I definitely wish the Honey Badger the best. One of the best college highlight tapes outside of Tavon Austin and Reggie Bush. That's top 3 for me.
Tyrann Mathieu's definitely in the top 10 college football players of the 21st century. He may be in the top 10 all time for college football. But like when I'm looking at him, it's one of those situations where I'm looking at it like, yes, he would benefit the team if we got him. However, with the money that it would cost to get him, because he would get a good size bag, I would much rather, me personally, I don't know if you're with me, Joshua, I would much rather pay a portion of that money to Calais Campbell to come back. I feel like that would be so much more impactful on the defense, for the Ravens to do, because he's just such a great interior presence. He's been coaching up the younger guys already. He knows the system. He can still play at a high level, but he also knows, like, he's at the tail end. He was contemplating retirement and then was like, you know what? I saw Aaron Donald. I saw him get that Super Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
I want to go get myself a Super Bowl. So, like, I would much rather pay that money to Calais Campbell to bring him back and then, save a little money. So then if, because the last couple of years we've been handicapped at the trade deadline because we have zero capital. Yep. If we could have a couple $1 million and let's say, I mean, there's a chance that Lamar Jackson gets extended, in the middle of the season or something like that. All of a sudden that can create a little bit of cap space. And then, hey, look at that. We can go make a trade for somebody because maybe it's an injury or they just feel like, hey, we have a hole at wide receiver. I don't know.
Yeah.
Let's go get somebody. They could actually do that if they save a little bit of money. So, like, so often we see it in the really bad teams. The teams that go into the offseason and they're like, oh, how much money does this team have? And it's like one of the worst teams in the NFL. And they're like, oh, they have $75 million in cap space. It was the Jets 2 years ago. It was the Jacksonville Jaguars this year. And they feel like they have to spend it all. You don't have to spend it all. You can save some. You don't got to give Christian Kirk $24 million a year when he never had a 1,000-yard season. You don't need to overpay all of these players. I'm not saying bringing Christian Kirk there was a terrible move. Paying him as much money as they did was a terrible move, in my opinion. But overall, it's okay to have some money in the bank for a rainy day. When you get your paycheck, you don't, obviously, if you need to spend the whole paycheck, spend the whole paycheck. But if you're able to, you're sitting there and you're like, oh man, I could go to the movies right now. You're like, you don't have to go to the movies. Would it be fun to go to the movies? Yeah, but you don't have to. You don't got to spend everything that you have, except on the obvious needs of livelihood. But we got that. That's Lamar Jackson. We're already spending our money on Lamar Jackson and Marlon Humphrey and Marcus Peters. And unfortunately, John Harbaugh and Greg Roman. But, that's besides the point.
Also, Nick Boyle and Patrick Ricard.
Yeah, so we're like, I think we get so caught up in big names. We get so caught up in wanting more because we're never satisfied. There's always players available that can make your team better. But it's the risk reward of, hey, maybe you sign that guy, but another guy gets cut, midway through the season.
Yeah.
Or another guy, we saw, I can't remember his name. The cornerback for the Packers got cut by the Cardinals on their training camp. He got cut by another team, and he just signed a 3-year deal with Green Bay. He came in and did terrific, but he was a cut guy. He just kept getting cut, and they saw him. They're like, hey, we have a little bit of money. We can bring this guy in, bring him to the active roster. They did. He had 3 interceptions, 2 defensive touchdowns, sealed the victory against the Arizona Cardinals on primetime football. They got him. The San Francisco 49ers, they picked up former Raven, Raheem Mostert. Most people don't know former Raven, but, he was on the practice squad at one point. I know he was on the field during a Justin Tucker game-winning field goal, or he was on the team because I saw, I was watching the Justin Tucker, every game-winning field goal he's ever had, and I saw Raheem Mostert running on the field, and I was like, there he is. He was on the Ravens. I knew it. But he bounced around. He was on 6, 7 teams, and then he gets to San Francisco, and they're like, hey, let's give you a contract. We like you. We had money in the bank to give it to him, so then he would stay. A guy like a Dez Bryant, he's going to want a little bit of money. A guy like a Le'Veon Bell, they're going to want some money. So if we have an injury, another unfortunate injury in training camp, like we did last year, we would have a little bit of money just in case, because we were without any money and we were like, oh, hey, Latavius Murray and Devontae Freeman and Le'Veon Bell, nothing against them. They did what they had to do. They did a good, they did a serviceable job for what we were expecting. But, we could have spent a little bit more money or gone for a trade of sorts if we had a little bit more. So it's okay to leave some money on the table so that, when, you get a flat tire, you can get a new one. So I don't know. That's kind of my thoughts on it. Yeah, he would make us better. But also, it doesn't make sense for him to come, and we could use the money in better ways.
No, I mean, honestly, that's the smartest way to look at it. I mean, yeah, when I was, like I said, in the previous episode when we talked about Bobby Wagner and everything, yeah, whirlwind of emotions, because I definitely would have loved to upgrade, to the defense. But at the same time, look at how much money we're going to be saving, where we can go ahead and get a Quan Alexander that is still serviceable, still be able to make a trade for that Devontae Parker. And change and make and give him guaranteed money and fix and construct that contract in a way where it still gives him more cap. So there's definitely ways we can make things happen. I'm definitely understanding um, of the bigger picture. And I think, we have to start realizing that, yes, as fans, we want some players, but we do have to understand, like, yo, in order to become a dynasty and become a team for generations to come that will never be stopped, we have to do things in a way, and position ourselves in a way where, we won't be stopped. Right
Yep.
now, we're in a stagnant period. But I would say this with EDC, with the aggressive moves that he has made with the Marcus Williams and Morgan Moses move, it shows that, it shows a level of growth in a positive way. It gives you a little bit of hope that, yeah, we've been riding that 2019, yeah, a little too high. It's time to make some changes. Yeah, we saw what happened when we went down. We saw that we couldn't get the special teams. Get those turnovers right. We saw what happened when we didn't have an actual offensive line with full chemistry. We was hurting on that right side. Yeah, Zeitler, he did his thing, but that right tackle, that outside, that was really hurting my quarterback. So let me go ahead and get a behemoth that showed that he's more than serviceable. That is a Pro Bowler, in my opinion. So I'm looking forward to seeing the next moves. I know it's been quiet. Today's April 1st, and 26 more days to the NFL draft.
Oh man, it's so close.
26.
What's even crazier? We only got like 3 more mock draft Mondays or something like that. Maybe 4. I don't really know. I think it's 3 more. Crazy how quick we're getting. But like, one final thing to bring up on not spending too much money. The greatest dynasty in the history of the NFL is the Patriots. As much as we all hate it, it's the Patriots. How often was Bill Belichick going out and saying, like, oh, we just have to get somebody, so we're going to spend that money?
No,
Bill Belichick wasn't doing that. He was saying, oh, you want a little bit of money? Goodbye, Randy Moss. Oh, you want a little bit of money? Goodbye, Chandler Jones. You want a little bit of money? Goodbye, Vince Wilfork. This dude was letting people go. Oh, Wes Welker, he let go. He let so many people go. Why? Not because they weren't good, but because he didn't want to spend excess money so we could always have money in the bank to go out and get players. And get players for cheaper that he felt could work in the system that they needed. Yeah, he could have signed, some other players. Probably grabbed some other guys. But he didn't, because he was like, you know what? If we need something, we can go get it. Let's say we want to make a trade. Oh, we can trade for this guy by the name of Randy Moss. Ooh, wow, that worked out pretty well. Actually, they didn't win a Super Bowl, so I don't know how well it worked out. But, prolific season 2007. But, I think that's probably it for this segment, unless you have anything else to add on to it, Joshua. Yeah.
We good. We can talk about what we really want to talk about.